Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'll be playing this week's Midweek Magic event, which is going to be Innistrad Midnight Hunt Phantom Sealed. For those who don't know, Midweek Magic is the weekly free event on Arena. It happens every Tuesday to Thursday. It's a variety of different formats, but it's always completely free, and it will always reward you with a random rare or mythic card for your first 2 wins, as well as a mystery cosmetic for your third win. And this is an endless event. You get to play as much as you want throughout the duration, Tuesday to Thursday. So it's a very low stakes, very low pressure event where you can pretty much guaranteed get these 3 rewards every week. So for this week, it is another limited event, a sealed event of Innistrad Midnight Hunt, which is pretty cool. Haven't played sealed of this format in quite some time. It is the classic gothic horror Innistrad with vampires, werewolves, zombies, all of that creepy stuff. Without further ado, let's just bust open our packs and see what kind of sweet stuff we get to play with today. Alright, and now that I am showing off the 6 rares, it is important to mention, I forgot to mention, that Phantom Sealed means that we won't be keeping any of the cards today. Part of having a free event means we're probably not going to be keeping any of the cards if it is a limited event like the drafts or sealeds that they do during these midweek magics every now and then. So, Phantom event, we aren't going to keep any of these cards, but we do get to play with them today. So we've got Graveyard Trespasser as probably one of our strongest rares. This is the one that sees the most standard play. 3 mana for a 3/3 with Ward of discard a card. So your opponent has to discard a card to target it in the first place, which is great, making them spend 2 cards to kill this. The removal spell that's targeting this and whatever other card they're discarding. This is really good graveyard interaction, stopping your opponent from getting any flashback cards going or getting any reanimator cards going, stuff that could come back from the graveyard. And it gets even stronger during the night. So very nice card. There's also Poppet Stitcher, which is quite strong if you have a Spell Slinger deck focused on casting a lot of instants and sorceries. You're going to be spitting out a bunch of decayed zombies. Decayed means that the creature can't block and it sacrifices itself once it attacks, but with the Poppet Stitcher, once you have enough tokens on the board, 3 or more creature tokens, you transform it into the Poppet Factory, and it makes all of your creature tokens just 3/3s with no abilities. So that's actually a pretty big upside if you have a bunch of decayed zombies on board. They go from being 2/2s that can't block and die as soon as they attack to turning into 3/3s that can do whatever you want. So Poppet Stitcher, very nice card with a high instant sorcery count or a high decayed zombie token production count. And we've also got Angel Fire Ignition, 1 red and a white for a sorcery. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature, give it Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Haste till end of turn, and it has flashback to cast it once again later. This can end the game out of nowhere. It's going to make one of your creatures gigantic and hit really, really hard 2 turns in a row. And if you've somehow not killed your opponent those 2 swings, that creature's still going to be massive for future attacks. So Angel Fire Ignition, another very powerful rare. So those are our top 3 rares by a lot. Following it up, we have Slogurk the Overslime, which is fine, but requires a lot of work to become powerful. This is a card you need a lot of self-mill, or you need a lot of lands that sacrifice themselves to get those +1/+1 counters onto the Slogurk. Otherwise, it's a 3 mana 3/3 trample, which isn't that great. It's got a decent leaves the battlefield trigger, but again, really want to be milling some lands or sacrificing some lands to make this card powerful and get those extra +1/+1 counters. And then our weakest rares are Deserted Beach, which is just a dual land, very self-explanatory. Fine card, but not going to push us in that direction. And then Hallowed Respite, which is very, very narrow. You basically have to have a ton of cards in your deck with really good enter the battlefield effects for this to be worth it. Usually these flicker effects are still kind of okay, even if you only have a few enter the battlefield effects, because you could use them to exile your creature and put it back on the board in response to a removal spell from your opponent. So you could use it as both a way to get enter the battlefield value and a way to stop a removal spell. But this is sorcery speed. Most of these flicker effects are instant speed so that you can do that. At sorcery speed, you can't use this to stop any removal spells from your opponent. All you can do with this is tap one of your opponent's creatures or flicker one of your own and get a +1/+1 counter on it, which is just pretty narrow and not that strong. So that's probably our weakest rare, but overall, pretty solid rares. Really like the first three that I brought up: the Angel Fire Ignition, the Graveyard Trespasser, and the Poppet Stitcher. So we'll see what we've got in the sealed pool as a whole to go with it. Let's check out our colorless cards first to see what might fit into any deck that we build. First of all, a Silverbolt is going to fit fine into any deck that doesn't have enough removal in it. It's not a great removal spell, but it makes the cut when you're very low on removal. Mystic Skull's pretty slow, but if you really need some mana fixing, it's a fine card. It's going to sit there and filter one of your mana into whatever color you need, and late in the game, it does turn into a 5/6 to make up for spending your mana on not doing much early game. And then Crossroads Candle Guide, I think I prefer Mystic Skull as mana fixing. Just another pretty weak, if we really need to help splash in a third color, the Candle Guide can do it. So nothing exciting colorless. Check out what we have in the multicolored cards to see if there's any build around signpost uncommons that push us in any directions outside of the rares. First of all, Blade Stitch Scab is very powerful. That could incentivize us to try to go blue-black. We do have a very powerful blue and black rare as well, which is great. Poppet Stitcher works really well with this because it spits out decayed zombie tokens. So Blade Stitch Scab could be where it's at. Faithful Mending is just okay. The idea behind this is you draw 2, then discard 2 cards that have Flashback or Disturb. Any abilities that let you recast them from grave to get good card advantage off this. Rite of Oblivion, also okay. The idea behind this one is to sacrifice something like a creature token, like a decayed zombie token, so that you don't really have to spend any additional cost when you cast this. You just get to kind of exile a non-land permanent for very little cost and do it again with Flashback. Requires a little more of a build around. Much like Faithful Mending, you need a lot of expendable tokens for it. Blade Stitch Scab still requires a build around, but you do up front always get a 2-mana 2/3, and you don't need too many zombies for this to be great. Then there's Arcane Infusion. One of the more narrow cards we've seen so far, needs a lot of instants and sorceries in the deck. Diagraph Rebirth, pretty slow graveyard recursion. It is a full-on reanimator spell, putting a creature from the graveyard back to the battlefield, but you want to have a lot of self-mill for this. And it is pretty expensive in the end. It does cost 1 less to cast for each creature that died this turn, but that's kind of a narrow cost reduction, so I'm not super into Rebirth. Sacred Fire, pretty consistent removal. It's a 2-for-1 as well. Can do it straight up and then can do it from the grave again. We've got 2 Join the Dance, which are fine. Winterhorn Blessing, pretty strong green blue card, not really a build around though. So some strong multicolored cards. The only real build around though is the Blade Stitch Scab, or the only build around I would say is strong enough to excite me is the Blade Stitch Scab. But we do have a lot of multicolored cards here, so almost any 2-color pair that we end up in is going to have access to a decently powerful uncommon within the color pair, so that's pretty nice. Take a look at our individual colors now. We'll start off with the white and see how that looks. Alright, don't like the creature curve very much. Thraben Exorcism is also a very narrow removal, very narrow interaction. I'm not a fan of that. Candle Trap, another removal spell I'm not a big fan of, because usually it's going to be really bad in any aggressive deck, and usually the white decks want to be pretty aggressive. The reason it's pretty bad if you're aggressive is because you're giving the creature Defender rather than completely removing it from the board, so it can still sit there and block every single turn as long as it has high enough toughness. So you really want the Coven ability to work, and Coven's a relatively inconsistent mechanic. You can't always rely on having the Coven to fully exile whatever you put Candle Trap onto. Then there's Hedge Witch's Mask, which is pretty weak and pretty narrow. This is an equipment that's just in here mainly to help you get Coven more easily. Coven means you want 3 creatures with different powers. So you want a 1-power creature, a 2-power creature, and a 3-power creature on board. And with cards like Hedge Witch's Mask, that makes it a little bit easier to get there, because you can have a 1/1 and 2 2/2s, and then just equip a mask to one of the 2/2s, and now you've got a 1-power, 2-power, and 3-power creature. So that's the idea behind the mask, but it's pretty weak at doing that. I actually like Homestead Courage a lot better for helping trigger Coven, and I probably would keep it in here if I had some powerful Coven payoffs, but with only Candle Trap, it's not actually anything that exciting, so not super into the Courage either. Griffs are fine but slow, Outriders fine but slow. The double Clarion Cathars and Search Party Captain are pretty great creatures, but this is a pretty low count of solid white cards in my opinion. Check out our blue now. Not super high on quality blue cards either. Drownyard Amalgam is pretty slow and dirtly, I'm not a big fan of that. We do have 2 Dissipate, which are pretty solid counterspells, and they also make a card like Stormrider Spirit a lot better, just having a creature with flash. So while this is pretty much just as slow and dirtly as Drownyard Amalgam, I think with double Dissipate in the deck it does go up in value and I'll keep it in for now. Gale Drifter is a solid 2-for-1 play thanks to the Disturb ability, letting you recast it from grave later. Shipwreck Sifters is solid little card selection, draw a card, discard a card when it hits the board, a lot better with a lot of spirits and Disturb cards, but still okay by itself. Falcon Abomination is great. Poppet Stitcher's great, Double Dissipate is great, Startle's great. A lot of good stuff going towards that Decayed theme with Falcon Abomination, Poppet Stitcher, and Startle at least. But then Geist Wave is just kind of mediocre interaction, 2 mana, kind of a lot for the effect, but you do get to draw a card if you target your own card. Locked in the Cemetery, kind of mediocre removal, but it would probably make the cut unless our second color has a bunch of good stuff, so I'm not in love with our blue. But with some really powerful cards like Poppet Stitcher, Falcon Abomination being pretty great too, I think it's a bit better than the white at least. Taking a look at the black cards now, we do have a Defenestrate and Olivia's Midnight Ambush, which is the best removal we've seen so far out of all our colors, so it's a pretty big deal. That's kind of a lot going for black. We've also got some pretty high quality creatures. We have the Graveyard Trespasser. We've got double Siege Zombie, which are pretty good in board stall situations. If neither player can attack in pretty well, because there's just so many creatures sitting there cluttering up the board, Siege Zombie gives you another way to slowly end the game, chipping away at your opponent's life total. Diregraph Horde is really great with cards like Siege Zombie, because it's going to hit the board later, give you 3 creatures off of 1 card. Even if 2 of them are decayed, those are still really good at getting tapped towards Siege Zombie abilities. So very big fan of Diregraph Horde as well. It's also main deckable Graveyard Hate, which is nice. Baneblade Scoundrel's fine, kind of dirtily. Blood Thief's probably bad enough to cut that. But I think the rest of the creatures are decent. Like Covert Cutpurse can find a good combat sometimes. Triple Hobbling Zombie's nice, but the zombie sub-theme going on with Siege Zombies and stuff here. And maybe Arrogant Outlaws would be the next potential cuts. But if you can trigger the Life Lost ability, 3 mana for a 3/2 that drains your opponent for 2 life is pretty good. But if you can't trigger the Life Loss, a 3 mana 3/2 that does nothing when it hits the board is pretty bad. There's a pretty vast difference between having a solid enter the battlefield trigger and having no enter the battlefield trigger. So these are on the chopping block there for black, but overall, looks like the best color so far, just because it's got quite a large quantity of cards, and a few of them are high quality, like Graveyard Trespasser and the removal spells and the Siege Zombies. So I do like the black here. Next up is our red, which has very few cheap creatures. We've got 1 Voldaren Stinger and no 2 mana creatures. 3 mana, we have a bunch of dirtily creatures like Brimstone Vandals and Harvesttide Infiltrators. 4 mana, some more dirtily creatures, but I do think Ardent Elementalist is a pretty good value play if you have enough instants and sorceries in your deck. Tavern Ruffian's pretty slow, though. The 5-drops are also not great. Purifying Dragon's pretty solid. Yeah, best thing going for red is probably just Double Burn the Accursed, but I don't like the curve very much. I don't love the creatures. Not super into the color. Last but not least, let's check out our green. I do really like Eccentric Farmer. Self-mill is pretty great in the format, and this is self-mill that also draws you a card, even if that card is just a land card. So that's nice. Outside of that, though, the creatures are pretty mediocre. They're fine on curve, but nothing exciting. The non-creature spells like Bramble Armor, Double Return to Nature, Path of the Festival, and Howl of the Hunt are very unexciting, though, so not that interested in green. I don't think there's really a huge standout 2-color deck. Like, we could go green-blue just to have Slowgurk, but I think black is our best color, so I think I just want to play black for sure. And let's take a look at the multicolored cards again, because I don't think there was a secondary color that's just way better than the rest, so I guess we could go black-green to be able to use Diregraph Rebirth. or blue-black to be able to use Blade Stitch Scab. Blue-black gives us the Poppet Stitcher as well, which gives us even more decayed zombie production, which could be good. And I think I'll just head in the blue-black direction here. And I don't think I'm going to spend too much more time in deck building since this is the free event. No matter what we end up playing, we can find 3 wins with it over time, even if it takes us like 10 games. So definitely could have had a pretty solid red-white deck here too. I don't think we had a good aggressive curve though, and Angel Fire Ignition is significantly stronger aggressively. But like when you saw our curve, we had 1 1-mana red creature, no 2-mana creatures, 1 1-mana white creature, no 2-mana white creatures. Our curve would have been really bad, yeah. Because Gavany Trapper also can't attack. Well, I mean, it can, but it's a 0/2. So it's a very slow curve for an aggressive deck. Even in sealed, we're basically doing nothing till turn 3. And then most of our 3-drops are only 2 power also. 3-mana 2/3s, 3-mana 2/3s. Got a couple 3-mana 3/2s, but we have 3 2-power 3-mana cards and only 2 3-power 3-mana cards. Once we get to 4 mana and onward, that's where we're good. We got Clarion Cathars, Search Party Captain, Audric's Outrider, but it's a real slow start for an aggressive red-white deck, so I think it's fine that we're just going blue-black here and not really pushing for that red-white deck. We could go for something a little splashy here, maybe throw a Slowgurk in here, get a little bit of green for a blue-black green, self-mill shenanigans. That could be decent. Throw in the Mystic Skull for some fixing. But I think just blue-black, Poppet Stitcher, Graveyard Trespasser, play our strongest rares together, play our strongest color. Feels like a fine place to be. Let's go ahead and cut these Dissipates, not because I'm cutting them forever, but because for some reason it doesn't let me change the card style while they're in the deck. There we go, card style's gone. We get to cut 6 cards out of this deck. Okay, I messed up my TCR. There we go. So first of all, Blood Thief, we do not have a lot of vampires, so this would just put a counter on itself, which is pretty slow and not very flexible to where we could put the counter like wherever we want it, so that doesn't seem great. We've got a lot of creatures here, right? 18, we could definitely cut a few more of those. Again, I think I'm cutting the Drownyard Amalgam for the same reasons that I listed earlier. Slow, dirtily body. Sure, it can be unblockable, but I'd rather just have a flyer at 5 mana, because that flash is a valuable ability with cards like Dissipate in the deck, even with cards like Defenestrate to play at instant speed. I like both of our 4 mana cards. I like having 4 2-mana creatures. I don't love Shipwreck Sifters, but I don't really want to cut a 2-mana creature, so let's just cut 1 or 2 3-mana cards. If anything, I guess I could just cut the Amalgam and I still have 17 creatures. Like, that's fine. It's a little bit high, I think, for this kind of strategy, but it's not bad. Do we have any particularly bad non-creature spells? I don't like the Geist Waves too much. Got a Defenestrate, Olivia's Midnight Ambush, and a Silverbolt. I think I could cut a Locked in the Cemetery. And then we'd still need to cut 1 more card. I guess at this point I'll just cut a 3-drop creature. We'll cut one of these Arrogant Outlaws. Just run the 2 of them, but run mostly a bunch of zombie dorks to go with Blade Stitch Scab and play some blue-black zombie nonsense. Yeah, we'll call it a deck there. Here's a look at our final deck for this midweek Magic event. We've got a blue-black zombies pile. Today, black was definitely our strongest and deepest color. It actually had a couple removal spells like Defenestrate and Olivia's Midnight Ambush, as well as a powerful rare like Graveyard Trespasser. Had a decent zombies sub-theme in the color with triple Hobbling Zombie, Diregraph Horde, double Siege Zombie, so we decided to pair it with blue to go with Blade Stitched Scab to buff all of these zombies that we have in black. Plus, blue gives us a Poppet Stitcher as well, another sweet card to work with all of our decayed zombies. So really nice if we can end up with 3 decayed zombies on board and then drop a Poppet Stitcher out, turn them all into 3/3s that don't have decayed anymore. Very, very powerful effect. So looks like a pretty sweet, pretty fun deck today. Not super worried about it because it is a midweek Magic event. So let's just head into the gameplay. Take as long as we need to grab these 3 wins. Alright, here we are on the play. No turn 2 plays, unless they drop a creature for us to startle. But we get to roll out a Falcon Abomination on turn 3, which is a very powerful way to get things started. Our opponent's on green. Green-white it is. Harvest-Tide Sentry is the play. I'd rather get some value off the startle than just getting a single Decayed Zombie right now. Let's run out a Falcon Abomination. Turn 3 for our opponent. They do have a Cathar's Call. Well, we are definitely using removal if we draw into it. If we don't draw into removal, this could be a not great time. Only one blue source is really bad here. Not being able to scab plus startle. Probably fine though. I think I need to scab over Hobbling Zombie or startle here. There's a Bramble Armor to just really juice up the Harvest-Tide Sentry. Sure, 5/2 Harvest-Tide Sentry. I'll cash in a Blade Stitch Scab to trade into that if they attack in here. Hedge Witch's Mask, they are going to suit this thing up like nobody's business. Alright, well, a Death Toucher should stop them in their tracks, but I could also just play a flyer and race. I mean, it seems like they don't want to trade Harvest-Tide Sentry into this Blade Stitch Scab, so I might as well get in the 2 damage with it, or get them to chump block. We get the 2 damage in with it. So I can Hobbling Zombie, hold up Startle, or I can play Storm Rider Spirit to have more flying damage. If I play Storm Rider Spirit, they're dead in 2 attacks. It's pretty significant. I mean, we die pretty quickly too, though, with this Harvest-Tide Sentry. You're going to be a 6-power creature, potentially. Let's just keep it off of us. Let's play a Hobbling Zombie. Both of these lines have pretty big upsides. Okay. Hobbling Zombie, I think, is definitely the better line if they have a removal spell for Falcon Abomination, which it looks like they do. If they move one of their equipments over to one of their 1/1s, then they will have Coven to be able to exile the Abomination, and we don't get to hold that up as a blocker. Okay. Keep Startle to save something on blocks. Ooh, Baneblade Scoundrel, what a draw. I could afford to play that and Startle this turn. That is super good. Yes, Scab can't attack in, because even if I startle the Sentry, nothing's going to happen there. If they triple block my Hobbling Zombie with all 3 of their 1/1s, they can kill it. They just go for a double block, which means we can startle. It's beautiful. Oh my god, and I draw into Olivia's Midnight Ambush? It's pretty beautiful for the future, but I'll just play the Baneblade Scoundrel. This thing cannot get blocked well by these 1/1s. It'll just eat them up. Especially during the night, where our opponent will still lose life for everything that dies blocking it. And now it's nighttime. Let's plop the Harvest-Tide Sentry to clear a path and just send in the squad. Should be a lot of damage here. That's going to be 9 damage thanks to the Baneclaw Marauder's ability. Puts them down to 3 as we pass the turn. Alright. They're going to have to get some pretty good defenses up to not die on the next swing. Vanquish the Horde is pretty good defenses. Gotta say, I'm pretty happy to have a Storm Rider Spirit now. Just flash that in. and send in the team. And that will be game. Check out what our first random rare reward is. It is going to be gems from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. The best reward a drafter can get. Here we are now for game 2. This hand could pan out poorly if I don't draw extra lands, but we are on the draw here, and I only need to hit 1 land to be able to cast everything but Diagraph Horde. So I'll definitely keep it. We've got both colors at least in this 2-lander, and there's another land. Let's go. Drop our Silverbolt turn 1. Our opponent is on green-white again. Gavany Trapper into Cathar Commando though, so much quicker curve here. Okay, let's pass the turn. Drawn another excellent 3-mana card to play with. Briarbridge Tracker, speaking of excellent cards. Wow. Yeah, that's one of the best rares in the format in Limited, in my opinion. A 3-mana 4/3 Vigilance is absolutely insane. And whenever it dies, they can crack the clue to draw a card as well, so it also replaces itself in card advantage. Which is pretty nuts. I'm just going to start dropping a bunch of Death Touchers. Force them to break through all these hobbling zombies to get anywhere. Or keep spending mana into their Gavany Trapper to tap them down. They are going to go ahead and spend some mana on the Trapper this turn, which keeps them from playing a 4-drop creature. At least they don't get to go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop on us. Take 7 damage from their 3-power 2-mana creature and their 4-power 3-mana creature. We're down to 10 life already. And they're just going to crack the clue immediately, alright. Puts the tracker back down to just being a 2/3, which is a little more manageable. Maybe they have another bit of token production here, like they're about to play a Clarion Cathars and makes a 1/1 or something to buff the tracker again. Return to nature the Silverbolt. Alright. No attacks. The hobbling zombies have locked up the board state for us. Some awkward mana here again. Now we really want double black for Midnight Ambush Blade Stitch Scab. Can't do that. They've got multiple 2/3s, so I think I'm just going to plop down the higher mana value 2/3 body so that I can bounce off one of their 2/3s. And if I do hit another black source, then I could play a Scab and a Olivia's Midnight Ambush in 1 turn and get multiple tokens thanks to Poppet Stitcher. Send in a Briarbridge Tracker, give it the Blessed Defiance, so if it dies, they get a 1/1 flyer. Okay, I'm still going to kill it. Get your 1/1 flyer. It's going to be a 10-turn clock, and I have a 2/2 flyer in my hand. Graveyard Trespasser is the draw. A good one too. For the life gain. I think I play my flyer here though. Start using the Trapper on it. I guess if I hit any land, I can play the Falcon Abomination and hold up Midnight Ambush, but I can't do that with the Graveyard Trespasser if I draw an island, because I'll only have the 1 black source still. Sure, let's play Graveyard Trespasser. It basically also stops the 1 damage per turn from the 1/1 flyer, because it can gain 1 life per turn. if we can keep creatures dying here, keep putting things in graveyards. Alright, they're gonna tap down the Hobbling Zombie. Play another land and another Morning Patrol. Tap down the Poppet Stitcher, because they don't have any cards to discard for Graveyard Trespasser's Ward ability. Send to the Cathar Commando and the 1/1 Flyer. Just going to take the trade here. Because if I just hit land 5, they can't attack with anything on the ground, but we missed land 5. Drop the Falcon Abomination here. That forces them to Gavany Trapper the Falcon Abomination, and they only get in for 1 damage when they do that. This way I'm 1 token away from flipping the Poppet Stitcher. And I can get that 1 more token with Olivia's Midnight Ambush. Their top deck is a Bramble Armor to make the flyer bigger here. It's a 3/2 now, which speeds up the clock a lot. We die in 4 attacks instead of 10 attacks. They are going to use the Gavany Trapper to get it in. Down to 7. There we go. Land number 5 is a beauty. However, part of why I wanted to play the Graveyard Trespasser first, I now don't have a way to use all 5 mana if I want a Midnight Ambush. The way was going to be Falcon Abomination and Midnight Ambush in 1 turn, and that clearly didn't pan out here, because I've already cast the Falcon Abomination. Well, I think it's better to Olivia's Midnight Ambush this Spirit away than cast a Diregraph Horde right now. Gonna be a significant amount of damage coming at me. Going down to 4 life, taking 3. Search Party Captain, that's a phenomenal draw. Gives them a wider board state to attack with, and draws them another card to try to find another creature if they're lucky. Just another land for them for now. But that is some more Gavany Trapper mana to lock down the Falcon Abomination with. Alright, so we kill this Spirit. Get our 3rd token, which means that Poppet Stitcher makes these all 3/3s. That can block on the ground, which means we're kind of golden now. We just keep chipping away at them in the sky. Play a Stormrider Spirit. I could go Diregraph Horde, actually. Get 2 more of these. That might have been better. Diregraph Horde into a Blade Stitch Scab next turn would be pretty nasty, because these are still zombies. So they'd all be 4/3s with Blade Stitch Scab on board. Yeah, I don't know if I actually need flying here. I can just go wide with all these decayed zombies turning into just full-on 3/3s. Alright, throw a Bramble Armor onto the 4/4, so it's a 6/5. We'd have to double block to kill it. Drop Stormrider Spirit. I could transform this and get greedy so that I can get another token when I defenestrate, but I'm probably just going to keep that. Keep that like that for the rest of the game here. To hit them for 5 damage 5 times to kill them, 6 damage. I'd only have to hit them for 4 times. Yeah, I'll speed up the clock and play the Scab now. But I think I am holding all these bonus zombies as defenders. Because I'm down to 7 life, and they've got like a 6 power creature on board. And they have a tapper on board, Gavany Trapper. So I would like to ideally play it pretty safe on the ground. Whoa. That's aggressive. Well, I'm gonna love this turn. I guess they get to recast one of these morning patrols, which I don't love. Guess I might as well not put that at risk. They've got no cards in hand, but still. Alright, they get to recast one morning patrol, but then I can diagraph horde the rest of their grave. And then it just kill them with a wide board state instead. Wait, they only have 2 blockers. They might just be dead. I mean, I should count here. They stop 8 damage and take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That is exactsies, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yep. They don't have any first strike to first strike away the Blade Stitch Scab or anything. I don't even have to do anything here. I can just attack with everybody. Probably could have found an even more lethal attack if I blocked differently. But that will do it. That's going to be our second victory. Time to get our second random rare reward. Doesn't even sound like words to me anymore. Random rare reward. Word soup. Alright. Ooh, it's a mythic rare. Halo Fountain from Streets of New Capenna, one of the more recent alternate win conditions. If you can have 15 tapped creatures on the board and 5 white mana, you can then tap your Halo Fountain, untap your 15 tapped creatures, and win the game on the spot. Alright, we've got a pretty excellent opening hand here. We are on the draw instead of on the play. We've got a very good turn 2, turn 3, and turn 4 play. So we get to curve out quite well. Our opponent's on green-white with a turn 2 Unruly Mob. Not a big deal. We got a cut purse if it manages to get super big. Also got Death Touchers like Hobbling Zombie. Okay. Let's see if they have any combat trick here to kill the Siege Zombie with. If not, just get a couple points of free damage. Rather play the Flyer or the Trespasser. Let's jump into the sky here. Let's play Falcon Abomination into Gale Drifter. Plan on playing a bunch of unblockable threats. Putting a consistent clock of damage on them. Turn 4, no more plays. They just had a turn 2 Unruly Mob and that's it for now. Alright. Send these 2 in again. Ooh, combat trick now. We do have a combat trick now, so they're going to trade a Flare Faith into a Siege Zombie. That's fine by me. Here's a Gale Drifter. They're at 16 life and we can hit them for 5 damage a turn in the sky. That's going to kill them in 3 attacks because Graveyard Trespasser is guaranteed to damage them for at least 1. Consuming Blob, that gets a copy of itself during every one of their upkeeps. That is very powerful. Alright. Well, I'm pretty happy I went for the flying game plan because there's no way we're breaking through the Consuming Blob. Send in the Flyers. Yeah, just be mana efficient and play a Diagraph Horde. Exile their 1 card in graveyard. Reduce the blobs to 0/1s. Sungold Barrage, the Diagraph Horde, because they can't use it on our Flyers since they don't have enough toughness. We'll take 1 damage from the main blob as it produces another one. Make them discard their last card in hand here just to make sure. I guess I should have done that pre-combat. But I would rather do that than anything else here. We just want to guarantee that we hit them for 5 in the sky again next turn, and Graveyard Trespasser will end the game. Exile a creature from our graveyard. All right. Well, there you have it. I believe. Poke for 5. And Graveyard Trespasser for the final 1 damage. And that's going to be our 3rd victory for the Midweek Magic. Our final prize, a mystery cosmetic. Now, this could be any type of cosmetic on Arena. There are more parallax card styles than anything else on Arena because almost every card on Arena has an alternate parallax card style. So whenever I get my Midweek Magic prizes, I just want anything but a parallax card style because everything else is just so much more rare just because of the sheer quantity of parallax card styles. So we'll see. Those are the 3D effect kind of card styles. Let's see what we open up here. Reclaim our prize. Well, that is to be expected. It is going to be a parallax card style. It is a pretty cool one, though. The Invasion of Lorwyn, these kind of big sweeping artworks, getting them all 3D and woobly warbly. It's pretty neat. So, not bad prizes at all. Can't complain too much when they are completely free. But that is going to end the Midweek Magic Innistrad Midnight Hunt Phantom Sealed event, and that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting this channel, as well as you for watching. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.